Boom. Look, ladies and gentlemen, it is 5 o'clock somewhere. Today, we're going to be talking about innovating franchise bar scene, the secret sauce between growing business ventures. So let's get this one started. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life: prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Bros. Business Bros. Today we're talking about a journey that takes us from the greens of the golf course to the bustling energy of the bar scene and everywhere in between. He's a man who's just not making moves, but is creating waves in franchising, real estate, and beyond. With a knack for turning simple ideas into sprawling businesses, he's here to give us a scoop on business empires, investing wisely, and the excitement of new ventures on the horizon. So buckle up as we welcome the final line, the remarkable Mr. Richard Moyer. All right, Rich, welcome to the program, man. Let's get this party started.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, dude, let's jump into this first one. Just as simple as you possibly can. The reason everybody comes on the show is to talk about what it is they do for a living. I kind of mentioned your stuff on the intro, but if you could say it as easily as possible, what is it that you do?
Yeah, I've been working for myself since I was 26 years old. So now I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I have multiple brands. The biggest brand that I have right now is Hop in a high-tech self-pour tap room and bar. And we're franchising that across the country.
Wait, hold on. No more bartenders? You trying to say we're scrapping that? We're going straight for the drink ourselves?
There's a little bit of both. Our locations moving forward will all have full cocktail bars as well as 60 plus self-serve taps.
All right, well, let's take it back a little bit then. Tell me about your early days. You're in the golf industry. When did you realize that you got to get off the green to make the green in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I got in the golf industry right out of high school. Became a PGA professional at the age of 22 years old. And just being in the golf industry, seeing very, very successful people as my members, I realized that, I got in the game because I love the game of golf and playing the game of golf, but I was actually spending more time behind the counter working or giving lessons than I was actually enjoying the game. So started asking all my members, what do you guys do for a living? They either were in sales or they own their own businesses. And I quickly started to realize I need to get on the other side of the counter. And I got into sales, and sales led me to start my first company at 26.
All right, and that's that came to be your first venture. So what were some of those key strategies that got you to kind of grow that first business? And I think you eventually sold that one, right?
Yeah, grew that first business. It was in the construction industry. One of the key things was just having the ability to know that if I can sell, I can do anything. I can always find somebody else smarter than me to do the work. So out that process, I would go sell work through, for high rises, hospitals, hotels, different big construction jobs. Didn't matter what it was, I was selling it, and then I'd go turn around and find out how to do it. And I ended up 2 months into my fourth year of business, I sold that business for multi-millions.
That is a true success story. All right, so you you're a professional golfer. You decide you're going to go off do your own thing. You start a business in the construction industry. You end up selling it, making a bunch of money. And then you decide to open up an ice cream shop. That's a huge pivot from the industry that you were in. What inspired you to make that move, and what did it do for you?
Yeah, I think overall, just being in the construction industry, it's very high stress and kind of you never turn it off. And it was one of the biggest reasons I sold it was because I was making more money than I never thought I could make, but I wasn't enjoying life and I didn't have as much freedom as I thought I would have being an entrepreneur. So the ice cream concept or the idea came from one of my best friends that I met back in college days in in Myrtle Beach. He's got a family recipe and he's like, hey, would you ever invest in an ice cream shop? And this was about a year before I sold the construction company. And I was like, man, I need something other investment right now anyway, and something fun. So the idea never came from me. It was just his idea, his family recipe. And we opened up the first location here in Charlotte, 2016. We have 6 locations with a couple more opening this year. It's just been kind of the staple of Charlotte. If you come to Charlotte and ask where's the best ice cream, people will mostly say Two Scoops Creamery.
Now that, congratulations, by the way, solid investment. But it sounds like it wasn't just a passive investment. You kind of got into this, into the business kind of with them and started to learn a few things about franchising. What did you learn when it comes to growing multiple locations like that, that you took with you in when you started going into the beer industry?
Yeah, that kind of happened within 6 or 7 months. So we opened up August. The first ice cream shop we opened August of 2016. February of 2017 is when I found the property for Hoppin', and we really didn't have too many other ice cream shops open at that time. We just had the one location, so I was kind of building both of them at the same time at a very high level. MJ is my partner on the ice cream side, and he handles all the day-to-day operations. But for me, it was always an executive position. Like I always just found ways to get things done. And it just happened naturally. You know, we learned our lessons on a few locations and opened in areas that we thought would be successful, but really never did the market research, and they ended up not being as successful as we wished. So we kind of just rolled the ball, and sometimes we were right and other times we weren't. And you know, that's a lot of the growth process as we continue to grow now. All the things we learned early on over the last 7 years.
I feel like you've lived the dream. You played professional. You got into business. You sold your first company. Then you wanted to enjoy the fruits of that labor, so you got into ice cream. And then you wanted to party some more in your 20s, so you get into the beer. Like all this cool stuff. You hear entrepreneurs always talk about how you have a life, and then you design your life around, or your business around the life that you designed. And I feel like just in the ventures that you've hopped in, you're kind of doing that. Hopped in, yeah, pun intended. Yeah. So when you started getting into the bar scene and you started to build that up, walk me through what you mean by the work. What work does it take to build something like that? Because I know off the top of my head, I'm already thinking, is that the construction inside? Is that the way it looks? Is that the operations and procedure? What is it that you have to do as an owner of these types of facilities, especially when you're going retail like that? What's the work that goes in that you focused on so that you were able to scale?
Yeah, the biggest thing is people. For me, it always came down to the people that I brought into my team. And I think where most kind of leaders or CEOs or founders might fail is that they don't put the investment in their people early on. And that could be financially big investments, or it could just be that, hey, I flipped the triangle upside down. Most people look at the triangle as a CEO at the top. I flip it upside down. I work for my employees. They don't work for me. My employees are the most important people that will ever be a part of our business, because they're the frontline workers. They're the ones that actually return your dollars, because they're the ones dealing with the customers that are spending the dollars. So for me, it's always about the people, especially in the industries that I'm in currently. Hiring the right people is very, very important. And then just getting rid of the cancers. Once you realize, you can find out pretty quickly if an employee is not the right fit. Getting rid of them quickly and not having too much of a feeling, because it's always tough to fire people.
Yeah, not hiring family. I've always heard that, right? Don't work family, but don't hire your closest friends. And I feel like you've kind of done that. You worked with some of your closest people, but hiring the right people to put into those places kind of helped you scale. I love that. And then you already kind of spoke about it a little bit, but you have a unique twist on that bar restaurant scene that you're building. What challenges did you face when you were creating this franchise model, and how did you overcome essentially the idea and then the execution of that?
Yeah, like I said, the ideas were I don't own one business that the idea came from me. I've just always been the executor and the guy that actually had the balls to go jump into something and take action and figure it out. So there's always that hurdle of jumping into something new and figuring it out and learning as you go. But as I've said on almost every podcast and everybody that I speak to, you have to have no fear of failing. Failing is your trampoline to success. If you're not failing, you're not learning. If you're not learning, you're not growing. And for us, the ability to just jump into something new and figure it out along the way, instead of reading a book or watching a YouTube channel or trying to figure out it from somebody else and wasting a year or two, I just jump headfirst into it. And then I'll look back and say, all right, we need to do this differently. Let's implement this process or this system so we can avoid these mistakes. And yeah, the headaches or the challenges that you run into when you do it that way are, you're going to make some mistakes that, are maybe costly a little bit, but it'll help you tenfold if you're going to open up multiple locations in the future. So on the flip side, the ability to again make those mistakes and learn from them, it ends up being your trampoline to get to the next level.
Now you've launched a franchise. What are your plans for growth? What makes Hopin like an attractive opportunity for potential franchise owners?
I think one is something completely different. We're shaking up the bar and restaurant industry in the franchise world. I mean, they're all kind of old school. We're eliminating a lot of the behind the scenes or the back of house, which is your restaurant food waste, and we just don't have a restaurant. So we eliminate a lot of the back of house overhead. We eliminate the food aspect of it. We partner with local food partners, whether that be a food truck or a neighboring restaurant, and then our margins are phenomenal. I mean, alcohol margins are really, really good, and we're at 78 to 82% gross profit. On the flip side, we do something a little bit different than most franchises. We handle all the digital marketing at the HQ level instead of putting that digital marketing on the franchisees, which in these days, as most people know, it's very time consuming. It's ever changing. The algorithms change, we feel like weekly. So having a team that does that every single day and being able to handle that for our franchisees has been phenomenal, and it's made it a lot easier to sell franchises. And our growth plan is continue to sign 10 to 20 franchise locations a year over the next year. And then we have 5 locations opening this year.
You've really narrowed it down, right? Like I like how you described when I go to a bar or a brewery for that matter, you're right. It always has food. It always has all these different things, but you found a way to kind of focus your attention on the thing that's most profitable, which is in the alcohol section. But still have all these other things that are going on just on a different level. And I think that makes a lot of sense because you're focusing your attention on what you do best in this one space and then partnering with these other peeps. Now, as an investor, I'm imagining you invested in a lot of different things, real estate and tech investments. How did you approach like investing in commercial real estate or investing in tech companies? And do they complement the overall business strategy that you have with the other investments that you've made?
There's definitely one. I acquired a media company here locally in Charlotte just to one, it was a great opportunity, two, to be able to control some of my own media. And that's been, very favorable for us. I mean, my businesses, my wife owns a bridal shop here in Charlotte, one in Miami. My brother owns 2 barbershops. So to be able to implement some of my own media for the family businesses has definitely been great. But the other, the tech investments was a buddy of mine. Ended up that tech investment didn't work out. Another buddy of mine has started a medical tech company, and that's flourishing. Looks like it's going to be a great exit in 4 to 5 years. And then on the commercial real estate side, I started in the residential real estate at 20 years old, started investing through those. And then at 26 or 27, I got rid of all my residential and invested in the commercial. And all that happened just throughout the process of, paying rent. You really look into like, do I want to continue to pay rent, or how do I buy these properties and be able to either run my businesses in them or just be a landlord and make money off of the real estate, and also tax shelter some taxes, because that's how all the filthy rich people avoid paying taxes and invest in real estate.
Dude, if I feel like you've got your overall business acclimated in a way that hardly anybody does. It's like you got that Midas touch almost. Everything that you've been touching kind of takes off. Do you have any investments that maybe you were like, you dabbled in, you're like, that didn't work out and you cut your losses and left? Or is there like a way where you're looking at these investment opportunities that maybe other investors don't have that same eye or that same approach?
I would say I'm batting a little bit better than average when it comes to being an investor. But yeah, I've definitely, like I said, that one tech company, I invested almost $100,000 in about 2 years, year and a half in, we scratched that. I try and realize when it's not going to be successful as early as possible. So my investment, whether if I'm continuing to invest in it or if it's just a one-time investment, I can get out of it and save the mental space. But I've had many failures, and I would say if I'm batting 400, 3 to 400 in this game, it's pretty good. You only need 1 or 2 to actually be really successful, and you can have 7 fail as long as you're not making some crazy investment that you can't afford.
So what would you say is probably the most valuable lesson you've learned in entrepreneurship and business that you would like to share with people?
Whew. I mean, I could share a ton, but I think anybody that's not an entrepreneur, there's two things. I'd say one, entrepreneurship's not for everybody, and two, it's a very lonely world. Understanding that you have to be the guy or the woman to make all the decisions. It doesn't matter how close your wife is, your friends, if they've never been in that position, it's lonely. So just really understanding that it takes a lot of hard work and it's a lonely position to be in, but it's very rewarding. And if you want freedom in life, you can definitely do it this way.
What about work-life balance? Because you hear that all the time, and you especially, you have a baby, newborn baby or baby on the way,
8-month-old.
8-month-old wife, multiple investments in businesses. I'm assuming you sleep like 0 hours per night. Like, what's that work-life balance look like for you? And if you could advise young entrepreneurs that are going to get into this space so that they avoid any type of burnout, because usually that's the reason why businesses fail. They just burn out. What would that be?
Yeah, early on, if I was supposed to have a wife at 26 or 27 when I had my construction company, it would have never lasted. I slept very little. I invested all my time and energy. I skipped friends' parties. I skipped weddings. I did all the things that you kind of would think you'd have to do to be successful. And then I also realized that that wasn't the right way to live. So once I met my wife, even after I sold my construction company, I was still working really, really hard, long hours. She kind of slowed me down and made me understand the importance of work-life balance, the importance of sleep, and what it does for our body to be able to be successful. But the most important thing is, if you're getting into it in the beginning, the work-life balance is going to be really tough. There's not one investment that I've ever been in that allowed me to just shut off and have a little bit of balance on both. But on the flip side, now I have enough money to be able to hire the right people and do the right things to where I can have that work-life balance. And I've been very fortunate enough, especially having a kid and realizing that I have an amazing team and amazing partners on my ice cream side, to be able to step away and feel like, hey, I can shut it off. I can enjoy some time with the family.
Nothing like being there for all the precious moments in life. I mean, it makes life worth living when you're able to be there for those moments. And you're right, early on, you are single, you don't have obligations, and you utilize that time to build all these things that you want to, so that you can have the freedom of time that you have today. I think that's amazing. So looking ahead, what's next for Rich? Are there any new ventures or industries you're looking to explore?
No new ventures, man. 100% all in for hopping. Again, franchising is a different animal, and it takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of growth that goes into that. So in the current short-term future, I'm hiring a president for that brand, and then long-term future is 4 to 5 years is to get a big investment, get bought out, either take a lot of chips off the table or all the chips off the table from a private equity firm, and that's on that side. And then the tech company will fall in line around that same time frame. So outside of that, my goal or my purpose in life is to be able to touch as many people as I can and uplift the people around me, or be mentors to others. And if I have 2 good exits, I'll probably become an investor into people I like, the ideas I like, and then continue to help them and mentor them and grow their companies.
When it comes to buying franchises, now that you've been in the franchise space, what are some trends or things that people should look for if they're looking to invest in a franchise? Because I think oftentimes we just don't know. We assume everything's like McDonald's, and not all franchises are built that way. So if I'm coming into the game and I'm looking to buy a business that already has these systems in place, a franchise, for example, what should I be looking for?
For me, we always look for, is the people the right fit. So I think on the opposite side, if you are looking for a franchise, there's thousands of franchises. It could be as simple as a painting company or a home improvement company, which takes minimal cost to get into and has a pretty good upside. And then there's bigger franchises that cost a couple million, 3-4 million to open up. So the biggest thing is figuring out, what will get you out of bed in the morning, right? If you ever thought of starting your own company and you're like, this is what I would love to do, there's probably a chance or an opportunity that there's already a company out there that franchises, and they have the systems in place, they have the leadership, they have the support. So you don't have to do it from ground zero and go through all of these struggles that we have learned, or all of the learning lessons that we have learned. And again, entrepreneurship is not for everybody. So if you have that support and that structure from a franchise, there's a lot of benefits to that. But the biggest thing I would recommend is what would get you out of bed in the morning. If you were to say, I want to start my own company, and then do some research, there's probably a franchise out there if you wanted to jump on it.
So should we look into, and I know this is going to be a kind of a personal question, but maybe you can kind of decide between the two, owner operator or investor as a franchise? What do you feel about either of those, and which one would you tend to go towards?
Just depends on where you're at in life and the opportunity that you can afford to get into. If you're looking at a higher end price, something like Hopin, that's $1.2 million to $1.9 million to get open, you're going to be an investor manager, and it's going to be somebody that's trying to expand their portfolio. When I say investor manager, I mean the franchisee is the investor, and then they'll hire a manager to run the day-to-day operations. But owner operator, it might be a smaller idea of something like a home services brand, or there's some other franchises that you can own or operate, and it won't, the upfront cost isn't as much, but you might have to start the first one with hopes to open up multiple locations or multiple zip codes with owning and operating it. But it really depends on your situation, and are you trying to expand on your portfolio and be an investor, or do you have the ability to only open up one location to start and be an owner operator?
Now, beer is a beautiful thing, right? There's always a room for a 5 o'clock drink at some point. And as a connoisseur, as an owner, any particular things you learned about beer that maybe people can kind of take with them the next time they visit a brewery or are able to visit one of your locations?
Man, I wish I could give you that. I honestly didn't start drinking until I was 25, and even to this day, I don't really drink much. I might have a glass of wine at dinner with my wife every once in a blue moon, or if we have friends over or go to dinner, I might have a drink. But I've been fortunate enough to hire people that know way more about beer than I know, and then they're the ones that do the ordering for us. They're the ones that help with cocktail menus and seasonal cocktails, and kind of staying innovative and on the forefront of us having cool things as far as that goes. But I wish I could answer that for you, but I never got into drinking to that extent.
Fair enough. A man knows what he's doing when he's taking his time and focusing his attention on his business and not on the party stage. So it's okay to be an investor in something that you don't always partake in, as long as business is good and you love what you're doing. I think it'll work out. Rich, if people want to reach out to you, find out more about Hopin, about what you do, about franchising opportunities, how can they do that?
Franchising side, they can go to www.ownahopin.com, or you can go to our consumer website and check out the current locations and future locations open at hopinbrands.com. For me personally, just search Rich Moyer on Google and Hopin, or Rich Moyer 2 Scoops Creamery, and there'll be a ton of things that pop up. You can reach out to me direct on Instagram or LinkedIn, and happy to answer any questions that anybody has about franchising in general, or if you have interest in Hopin, would love to chat.
Sweet, dude. Any final thoughts before we head out?
Final thoughts is, if you're looking to be an entrepreneur, action over everything. Just get up and do the work. And one day, whether it's a year or 2 years or 3 years, you'll look back and say, shit, that's how you get it done.
One step at a time. Oh, hey, a little selfish one, man. You played golf for a long time, and I play golf rarely, and I tend to find every tree on the golf course. Any helpful hints that you might be able to give a rookie golfer trying to get started and wanting to hit the ball straight?
Man, that's all time. How much time have you been able to spend on your swing? There is no straight ball in golf. There's the pros don't hit it straight. There's no such thing, but trying to keep it in play is a different story, and it's the hardest sport in the game of any sport. So I think just biggest thing I could say is tempo, man. Have a good tempo and don't try and kill it. And usually the club will do the work.
Let the club do the work. Appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come on the show, Rich. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested in maybe franchising or owning one of these franchises, scrolling across the bottom, ownahopin.com. Rich, thank you very much for being on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace. And we're
Thanks
out.
for having me.
It's over. Go home. Is your business in need of marketing? try starting a podcast. But not just any podcast, podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz